Yes, we do have musical cockroaches on tonight's installment of Monstervision. I'm Joe Bob Briggs. The movie is Joe's Apartment, and it's the sensitive story of a young man from Iowa who takes the bus to New York City and ends up living illegally in the worst apartment, in the crummiest building in the East Village. Women see this apartment, and they run screaming out of the room. Men see this apartment, and they go, how much rent did he pay? Do they have any more of those? I'm Joe Bob Briggs.
See Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs next on TNT.
I'm Joe Bob Briggs, and tonight we have Nightbreed from the king of gooey crud, Clive Barker. But before you ogle all the pus monsters in that one, you get to watch our first movie. It's a guy talking to his dancing cockroaches in Joe's apartment. And speaking of dinner at my house, I have a question. Why is it that when people invite you to dinner parties these days, everybody there is the same age? D-U-L-L. Can you spell that? Sometime in the last 30 years, we've gotten into this pattern of only associating with people our own age. Whatever happened to the idea of hanging out with people you have nothing in common with? Because first of all, what's the number one thing that's guaranteed to juice up a dinner party? An argument, right? Yeah. That's why if you're going to invite liberals, you also need to invite conservatives, preferably ultra-conservatives. And if you're going to have painters and dancers and actors over, you need to throw in a few stockbrokers and neurosurgeons. Yeah. And if the party starts filling up with single people, you should toss in a few old married couples, because we're stirring up a cauldron here. We're juicing it with spices that don't go together. We're giving people something to talk about in the car on the way home. Yeah. But instead of that, we've got all these major institutions, like, for example, churches. They divide people up into 20s Bible study, 30s Bible study, married people Bible study, singles Bible study. So you end up with all these look-alike, sound-alike, went to the same school, have the same politics, listen to the same music, zombie enclaves, right? We got things like the Black Journalists Association. Could you narrow that down just a little more? You know, the Encino Self-Made Plumbers Guild, the Temple of Hairy-Legged Women, you know, women with a Y. We've divided ourselves up into so many little groups that it's possible to live your whole life without ever coming into contact with somebody who thinks you're full of bull. I think it's fun when somebody thinks I'm full of bull. If it's a woman, I might fall in love with her. Who knows? You know, if it's a man, I might become friends with the guy. Because there's something about that friction thing, you know, between two people who know what they think and they won't back off from it one iota that results in, I don't know, some kind of Hillary Clinton thing, like community, you know, or respect for each other, lasting connections, whatever you call it. It's very American, and it's dying out. Yeah. That's all I have to say. All right, it's time for Joe's Apartment, the 1996 flick made by MTV about this slob from Iowa who moves into a tenement building in New York City and manages to make it even more disgusting than it already is. The good news is that his cockroaches love him for it, and so they do all kinds of barbershop quartets and Busby Berkeley numbers for him and even help him out with his love life. You know what? It just may be the greatest cockroach musical ever filmed in the East Village. Yeah. So let's do the drive-in totals at the next break, but check it out, and I'll be here to supplement the flick with a few cockroach facts, among other things. Okay, here's one fact. Here's one fact to get you started. The word cockroach is a corruption of the Spanish word cucaracha, which is familiar to us all, of course, from the Mexican hat dance, right? La cucaracha, la cucaracha, which is one of the most important cross-cultural contributions to American-Mexican relations in the history of those two great nations, in my opinion. La cucaracha, a bridge between cultures, a symbol of international understanding. Male form would be El Cockroach. You know, anybody can sponsor a lame website contest, but very few can create a contest that is extremely cruel to the losers. That's the whole idea behind the Monstervision caption contest. Try your luck, make the six-headed jury laugh, and you might win a cool Monstervision t-shirt, or you might go down in flames and be derided as an unfunny loser who tried to compete with the big dog. Check it out at tnt.turner.com/Monstervision. We'll enjoy it, even if you won't.
Play the Monster Caption Contest and win a free t-shirt at tnt.turner.com/Monstervision. Back to Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs and Joe's apartment on TNT.
That was the legendary Don Ho of Tiny Bubbles fame as the evil landlord who goes to the office of the man from U.N.C.L.E. transvestite senator. Now, maybe you didn't recognize Don without his Hawaiian shirt, but this was his film debut, and he's pretty dang good, don't you think? And the gal playing Blank, the black gal who works with the blonde at the 911 place, that's Sandra Denton. She's in the band Salt and Pepper. Salt and Pepper, that's that girl rap group. It sounds like it should be 2 gals, but it's really 3 gals. Sandra Denton is Pepper. The second one is Salt. And the third one is, of course, So Salt and Pepper. The best looking one is actually There's a problem if you're in a crowded room or a bar, though, because you're trying to get her attention. You go, hey, Everybody thinks you have sinus problems or something. Anyway, I promise you the drive-in totals. We have 1 dead body, no breasts, 3 muggings, 5 musical cockroach numbers, 4 with choreography, senior citizen stair rolling, tenement torching, paint dousing, doo-doo collecting, cat rodeo, gratuitous Charlie Rose parody, gratuitous cross-dressing, and of course, cockroach food. 3 stars. Okay, let's get back to the movie. The story here is pretty much a rip-off of Batteries Not Included, which we showed here a while back, and I hated that movie. That movie needed a few cucarachas, you know, take the edge off that Spielberg glow. And a performance artiste named Walter Smut. Now, am I the only one who noticed that everyone's mouth is doing something completely different whenever they say smut in this movie? It's like they're playing a rumba, but everybody else is doing the twist, you know? Wonder what they could be saying. It's weird.
Back to Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs and Joe's apartment on TNT.
I love this movie, especially the pussy on the face scene and the roach that does stand-up comedy to save his life from the cat. Okay, we got a little visual aid here. As you can see here, there are 4 basic species of household cockroaches. The first one is the American cockroach, or Periplaneta americana. Peri, as in like a pear, as you can see, and planeta, as in small plan, or the size of a small planet. And then, of course, Americana, as in shirts made out of the Stars and Stripes, Statue of Liberty piggy banks, stuff like that. I prefer to call them American cockroaches, and they're the most primitive living insects, practically unchanged for over 320 million years, kind of like the Briggs family. Slow to evolve, but dang hard to kill. You can cut their heads off, and they live for another week. They only die because with no mouth, they can't drink, and so they die of thirst. I'm talking about the cockroaches, of course. The Briggses, they just pour the old Milwaukee straight down their gullets, no mouth required. Okay, more later. Back to the flick. Oh, and did anybody recognize professional wrestler Bam Bam Bigelow back there in that scene? Guy in a hard hat yelling, "You're fired!" I partied one night with Bam Bam Bigelow. I tell you, that's something you'll probably only choose to do once in your life. You know those headbutts he does in the ring? He does those in life. He has no forehead left, just scar tissue up there. When they hired him for this movie, he thought it was a stage version of Romeo and Juliet with him as Romeo. You know, they said, "Bam Bam, it's a new contemporary version, and your first line is, 'You're fired,' okay?" And then he bashed his head 7 times on a concrete pillar and did the scene.
Back to Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs and Joe's apartment on TNT.
Did you notice the guy walking the Weimaraner who Joe steals the dog doo-doo from? That was William Wegman, a big-time photographer, famous for taking pictures of his dogs and selling them in galleries for $1,000 a pop. And in fact, that dog is more famous than half the people in this movie. The dog's name is Fay Ray, and she's on artsy-fartsy greeting cards all over the place. She might even be more famous than the star of this movie, Jerry O'Connell. Anybody remember Jerry O'Connell? Jerry played the fat kid in Stand By Me. Oh. And for a long time, that was his only claim to fame, but then he played the quarterback in Jerry Maguire and Neve Campbell's boyfriend in Scream 2, and now everybody talks about how the fat kid from Stand By Me turned into a stud. And it's almost like the perfect publicity stunt. You know, it's kind of the same principle as those guys who write Christian books. They say, I used mind-altering drugs for 23 years and slept with every hooker in Reno and stole $100,000 from my best friend's business account, but now I found God. Hallelujah. They sell millions of these books, whereas some guy who just prayed a lot and had a big family and gave all his money to the church, let's see him try to write a Christian book. So anyhow, Jerry O'Connell did put live cockroaches in his mouth for that scene where he takes the bite of cereal, and his girlfriend wouldn't kiss him for a month. At least that's what they say. And I want to believe that, but it smells oddly of publicity again. You know what I'm saying? But I won't dwell on it. Back to Joe's apartment. And, oh, and I forgot. Continuing with our study of the cockroach, the species of cockroach known as Supella superlectilium can hold their breath for up to 40 minutes. Supella superlectilium, meaning roach with a headache.
Back to Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs and Joe's apartment on TNT.
That was the band Boss Hogg playing at the club back there, named after my ex-mother-in-law. And if you blinked, you missed Paul Bartel. And that might have been Moby as the DJ, but I don't watch enough MTV to know that. I'll tell you what I do watch, though, and that's the TNT Mail Girl whenever she makes her entrance. And that time is now, because it's time for Joe Bob's Jailbreak, where we read the letters from the nice boys in America's fine prisons. And I guess this is sort of a prison movie, isn't it?
Oh, how do you figure?
Well, they're trying to tear down Joe's apartment to make way for a prison.
Actually, I think a prison would be an improvement over that place.
That's every girl's nightmare, isn't it? Being on a date and finding out the guy's a big slob and the apartment's full of cockroaches.
Ah, that's not a nightmare. It's a reality.
What are you talking about? Not all guys are that bad. Come on.
Really? When was the last time you cleaned this kitchen?
This kitchen? Yesterday. I also cleaned my bedroom. You want to see that?
That's a scary proposition, and one I'd almost take you up on, just out of a sixth sense of curiosity.
Yeah? Because I got a new pulsating black light, and it's not the ones with the Playboy Bunny profile on the side either, because those are cheap. It's a really good one.
Okay, I've changed my mind. How about a letter? Ooh, this one's from Jack Dewey at the Spring Creek Correctional Center in Seward, Alaska.
Are you sure?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Joe Bob and Rusty the Mail Lady. Some of your movies are lame. True, okay. But some are really cool. But the same damn movie is played on Saturday afternoon and Friday afternoon and then again on Saturday night. Come on, Joe Bob, I really do dig your show a lot, but let's get it together, okay? Look, like I choose to be the 18th show on TNT to get Back to the Future every time. Come on. Yes, I am in prison, and you can use my name. I am 42 years old, 5 foot 9 inch tall, brown-green eyes, and 200 pounds. I'm also from Texas. I hope that's for your benefit that he's given this information, Rusty. I'm also from Texas, Joe Bob. Say, before you put me down for being in prison, I'm not putting you down, man, you know. I'm not putting you down. Before you put me down for being in prison, let me tell you why. I found my ex-wife in our bed with another man. She was buying this forbidden TNT word with my money and a vet with my money. So I beat the holy blah, blah, blah out of both of them. So, buddy, here I am in prison for it. Joe Bob, I've been seeing you on TV for over 10 years now. You're doing good, old son. There are not many Texans here in this prison in Alaska. I'm from Freeport, Texas, down below Houston. I've not been back in 22 years. I only have 19 months left to go here. Joe Bob, I'm not some nut, but I am a big fan. Joe Bob and Rusty, if you ever need a bodyguard, which is one of the jobs I do on the outside, of course, you're probably a little out of practice. Let me know, okay? I also put in 4.5 years in the U.S. Marine Corps in Cambodia. Well, old son, from one Texan to another, take care and keep up the good work. Jack, my nickname's Bull R. Dewey, number 124653, Spring Creek Correctional Facility, Seward, Alaska. Well, Bull, good name, don't you think?
I do.
Bull, I guess you know by now that if you settle things the Texas way, you end up behind bars, don't you? So, but stay cool till parole day, okay? Spring Creek Correctional Facility is a maximum security prison in Seward, Alaska, which is a tourist town, actually. I hope they finish that multi-million-dollar sea life center they were building there, because we need another whale show, you know. But 560 male inmates with no sex offenders in these prisons. They transfer those guys' heinies right out of there for some reason. Recreation includes basically all sports except football. The warden doesn't like to encourage contact sports. They also have anger management programs, which I hope you're partaking in those, Bull. But thanks for your letter. We love a captive audience. Free your mind, and your butt will follow. And so do we have any use for a bodyguard around here, Rusty? What do you think?
Maybe, since the only way I'm going into your room is if I have a bodyguard.
I'll make sure that nothing happens to you, huh?
Uh-huh.
We can go in right now. We can go look at my, I like to call them Cheerios.
No. Now I'm not even going in with the bodyguard.
Don't make me go to anger management training.
Back to Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs and Joe's apartment on TNT.
She's cute, isn't she? That gal playing Lily. Megan Ward is her name. She starred in some excellent flicks like Trancers 2, Trancers 3, Amityville 92, which is actually Amityville 5, but never mind that. She was a spokesmodel in Japan. She speaks Japahino and everything. Then again, I guess it'd be hard to be a spokesmodel if you didn't speak the language, because then you'd just be doing a lot of pointing and bowing. Anyhow, she also played Ashley Judd in the TV movie Naomi and Winona, Love Can Build a Bridge. Oh. She does look kind of like Ashley Judd, I think. Those wacky Judds. We love to talk about the Judds here. What a fun family that is. Now, Mama, you know that's not true. How many times has that one sentence been uttered in that family? Remember when Winona issued a press release to say she was not pregnant? Yeah. Like we were all in the motel room? You know, we had to know that she was... Okay, let's not dwell on that. Go. Oh, I forgot my roach fact. Continuing with our education on the road, have I mentioned the Blatella germanica, meaning German bladder after consumption of a 40-ounce Lowenbrau? Ah. This roach is identified by the two dark stripes on its prothoracic region, which you can see, well, the two dark stripes on its, well, see, this is not a Blatella germanica. This is a cheap plastic roach that we just put on the chart. But it's kind of sad, though, because once you have prothoracic problems, there's a chance you can turn impotent, because guys 35 and above, get that prothoracic checked at least once a year. You don't want to end up with a wimpy limpy.
Back to Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs and Joe's apartment on TNT.
Here's where the movie turns all goofy and sentimental, but it's okay because we're kind of set up for that from the beginning. Joe's Apartment is an interesting story. It was written and directed by a guy named John Payson, who graduated from Harvard and started answering the phone at MTV, and then he worked his way up in MTV till he was director of on-air creative development. Now, for those of you unfamiliar with TV lingo, that means he oversaw the development of interstitial programming. And for those of you who still don't know what the heck I'm talking about, Monstervision is interstitial programming. Inter meaning between, and stitial meaning stuff on TV. So, hence, between the stuff on TV. Anyhow, John Payson eventually directed a short film called Joe's Apartment, which aired in 1992, and then in '96 he made the feature version, which we have here. And I've saved the best for last in our instruction. The Blatta orientalis, I don't know if you can see this, meaning bladder after consuming a 40-ounce Sapporo. And it's considered one of the filthiest of household pests. They're dark and shiny, and they have white blood that just sloshes around their bodies since they don't have veins. And they don't do well in cold weather, so keep those heaters on, okay? All right, it's time for the touching conclusion to Joe's Apartment. And this is actually my favorite of the 4 varieties of Las Cucarachas. And you know why? Because if you stomp on this baby, it gooshes. You end up with so much stuff on the floor that people come in and they say, what happened, spill a vanilla milkshake? And there's just something satisfying about hearing that and seeing it And it's like killing a space alien or something, you know. Look, cockroach guts. Cool.
And now, Joe Bob's Last Call and Nightbreed on TNT.
Hey, Joe Bob Briggs still here. And the Roaches close with a rousing gospel number. Great movie, kind of a sweet movie. Not the kind of thing you would really expect to be made by MTV. Okay, let me remind you once more that next week is the first annual Joe Bob Briggs Family Christmas Special, a very Joe Bob Christmas, with a reunion of all the Briggses from all the areas of Texas and even as far east as Pickensville, Alabama. We'll also have the Joe Bob Briggs Tabernacle Choir, which is several of Rusty's lovely friends, so I'm looking forward to that. All this in the only Christmas movie with a monster that gets killed in a blender. I'm talking Gremlins, and we'll follow that with more pets, the cowboy alien mafia comedy Pet Shop. Okay, it's time for Nightbreed, the first affirmative action horror flick with over 200 mucus mummies, including one guy with a crescent moon head like the old McDonald's commercial and a fat guy with snakes that pop out of his stomach and eat your face off. And those are the people you're supposed to like in these movies. All these slime glopola monsters live in a place called Midian, which is underneath a cemetery up in northern Canada, which is where this weird-beard psychiatrist Spongehead is slashing housewives and wasting innocent suburbanites. And I don't want to say any more about it, so let's do the drive-in totals and get it started. We have 66 dead bodies, 6 breaths, but don't even think about seeing those on the TNT version, 1 motor vehicle chase with pickup plunging into the center of the earth, killer porcupine breasts, exploding monsters, throat slashing, bimbo staking, head hacking, guy cutting off his own face, whimpering mutant ET dog that turns into a little girl when it's taken out of the sunlight, heads roll, mutant foo, flamethrower foo, earthquake foo, 3 stars. Check it out and we'll be right here. Clive Barker. Clive Barker's idea of a great time is to have a nightmare about a woman with 3 heads and no skin who flays your body with a pitchfork. That's Clive. I'm inviting him to my next party.